What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Shots on Target with your host, Brad Betts, where we analyze the world of football from the goal market perspective. We don't leave any match untouched, and then we're going to follow and provide with a ton of best bets for today and throughout the weekend. We missed our well, today is Friday, September 13th, and unfortunately missed our 2-goal parlay by 1 goal yesterday in one of our matches. It ended with 30 shots and 10 on target. Typically, you see more than 1 goal, but unfortunately couldn't get there. However, with today's slate, with absolutely how much we have to cover this weekend, especially highlighting the English Premier League, I wanted to welcome my friend, fantastic gambler, great guy, always looking for good edge and smart plays and good numbers, my friend, Andrew Persara of the Plus Money Pod. Please introduce yourself. Tell us how we can find you and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Excited to be here, my man. It's a big weekend. We got a ton of action to look ahead to. Yeah, my name's Andrew. I'm a big Liverpool fan, but I love betting pretty much anything across Europe's top five leagues. Love a team total over 1.5. Last year made a lot of fun with the shot props, waiting for us to get a little bit more data before we really dive into that. But yeah, you can catch my podcast. We're usually out every Thursday morning or Thursday afternoon ahead of a big European slate. We try to shoot for like a 15-minute episode, whip through the biggest games across the EPL, and then we kind of go over our limit when I fall in love with the card with whatever's going on in Europe. So yeah, big Liverpool fan. I think that's just about it. You can follow the podcast at the Plus Money Pod on all platforms. You can follow me at Andrew Pissarro on all platforms. Always talking footy bets, always talking soccer. And yeah, originally from the DC area, so big game for my Commanders this weekend. But we'll see. We're in a rebuild, so but Liverpool is doing their thing. So excited for this weekend. Excited for the show.
Love it. Russell Johnson couldn't agree more. Tough beat on the POD yesterday, as we mentioned previously. Brad Morris, happy Footy Friday to you too, my friend. We're going to be going all throughout the weekend. And my friend Andrew here, he's going to cover the Premier League extensively today. We have a fantastic slate. And one thing that he mentioned that I also wanted to reiterate is we don't have enough data in a lot of these leagues thus far this year. So keep things light a little bit. And as we get to week 8 through week 15, even to week 20, that's when the bets really pick up. You can kind of see a lot of these teams, what they're looking for, what they are defensively, offensively. That's when we really want to attack. But right now, we study, analyze, and we kind of get ready for that. All right, so first things first, we're going to jump straight into my best bet for tonight, and we're going to go into Liga MX. Yesterday, I highlighted Liga MX, a little bit of a prelude. Right now, Mexico, Liga MX, is hitting over 1.5 goals in 30 of the last 31 matches. That's insane production. They've hit BTTS 17 and 5s over the last 22, 17 and 5. And over the last 21, they're 16 and 5 to the over 2.5. Regular goals coming in on all sides. With this just coming back, I'm going to take a little bit of a different angle. I'm going to take a 2-goal parlay. I mentioned this in the Sports Lines early edge. I wanted to, as we get into this first slate, I want to make sure that there could be some teams that run out slow. But what we have here, I got threw it up on the board because it's so tough. Juarez and who we have? Juarez and Mazatlan. Juarez come in hitting over 1.5 in 12 straight, and Mazatlan 24 of the last 27. We've got Tigres and St. Louis. Tigres come in 20 of the last 23 over 1.5. You have St. Louis in 18 straight, Necaxa 21 of the last 25 over 1.5, and Pumas in 12 straight. These are teams that are absolutely performing and very difficult names. And since we don't have a recap, I wanted to show this if you can, try and screenshot it, but it's 3-leg parlay at plus 105, plus money for that. Absolutely beautiful. It's moved over the night. It's now minus 120 on the book, the MGM, which is what I saw this morning. So it is on the rise. And I think that's because they're saying Mexico is really performing highly right now. So we're going to stick with that right now before we start to get into individual matchups in Mexico in the coming future. What's up, Andrew? What do you have first for us in the English Premier League?
It's a great weekend. Really pumped to have it back. We're skipping the Man United game because I cannot find value on Man United Southampton. It's an absolute trap for me. We're jumping to Crystal Palace and Leicester. Now, Palace are a team I was really hot on the end of last season, but had a lot of players feature for international teams over the summer. So I kind of expected them to get off to a slow start, and we've seen that so far. And Leicester were a team that They had some financial irregularities going into the Premier League season, potential points deduction incoming. It sounds like that's not going to happen now. But right now, so we're going both teams to score an over 2.5. I don't love either of these defenses, and frankly, I think there's not keepers that I'm in love with either for those clubs. So both teams in over 2.5 was plus 110 when I locked it in earlier this week. I think it's dropped down to plus 105 or right around even money. Both teams to score has hit in all three Leicester games so far this season. Palace have conceded in all three EPL games. Chalobah is now going to be out for Crystal Palace. They sold Anderson over to Fulham. So just lacking solid defenders. I think this is one of those games that we see at 2-1. I could lean Palace just because they're at home, but frankly, I could see this one ending up with Leicester finally getting a win to start the season. But I was really trying to be confident with fading Palace at the start of the season after falling in love with them towards the end of last season. I caught a future last like 4 or 5 games. I got them at plus 500 to finish top 10. Everything broke in my way. So I do like all the pieces on this Palace team, but I think they need a little bit of time to rest and recover. And this is a great opportunity for us to hit that both teams to score over 2.5 Saturday morning, 10 a.m.
Love that. Everybody knows who's been following me. I was riding Palace all throughout the end of last season, throughout the beginning of this season. They've been getting the chances, even though they haven't converted in a couple of those matches. They've been wrong done. They've had goals overturned that I feel like shouldn't have been overturned. They've hit so many posts. They're all over it. And now they come back at home against a porous Leicester squad who has been able to find the net. Jamie Vardy, what a stud. He's been doing it for a decade now from the lower leagues all the way to the top. The man just performs. And if he has a chance, he's going to bury it. So I like with how porous Palace is. I love the BTTS that over 2.5. Palace should push them, and Leicester are porous defensively. It should hit that over 2.5. So be mindful of that. Try and catch a better number if you want to play it a little bit after the start. Is what I do. Is a lot of times I'll try to wait 5-10 minutes sometimes in these Premier League games because they're a bit slow to start. But I love that play. I'm going to be tailing that, no doubt. So my next play that I have early morning tomorrow. This is probably going to be a wake in cash for most people. We're headed to Japan. We have Kashima Antlers taking on Sanfrecce. I can't actually say the end, and the pronunciation was brutal when I was trying to find it earlier. But Kashima come in scoring in 24 of their last 27 matches, and they've conceded in 20 of their last 26. Regular production, you've seen Kashima hit both teams to score, hit the over 2.5, regular goals on either side. But they're really what we like the best is the Sanfrecce side, which is playing away. They're coming in scoring in 36 straight. So when you have a team scoring regularly, playing away from home, they've conceded in 15 of their last 22, so above that 60% total. You just kind of expect this team to concede away from home with the way Kashima's also attacking. So my favorite bet on this is just the classic. It's both teams to score. I think Kashima finds the net at home, and they're porous. And Sam Freeze, they are 36 straight finding the net, conceding regularly, but also in the last 3 matches that these two have played one another, both teams to score has come in. So we're going to take both teams to score for Kashima and Sam Freeze at minus 136.
It's a really solid value over in Japan. I'm jumping back to the EPL, staying in that 10 a.m. window. We're going to my boys, Liverpool taking on Nottingham Forest, game 4 for Arnie Slot at Liverpool. And it pains me to admit this out loud after so much fun and enjoyment of the Jurgen Klopp era, where Liverpool, where you can bank on them being an overs team. I think 3 games in, I think we're an unders team. And it hurts me a little bit, but I think it's better for my stress levels, better for my anxiety, more control of the ball. So there's 2 ways you can attack this weekend. I'm not in love with this Nottingham Forest team. I think they are going to struggle. I don't know if they're going to go down, but this attack is not great. Liverpool's defense so far has been excellent. Haven't conceded a goal yet in the Premier League. So right now, the fact you can get Forest under half a goal at plus 112 is really great. It's at Anfield, so Liverpool should keep a clean sheet. If you were looking for better value at plus 195, I actually think this moved up to plus 200. Liverpool exact win 1-0, 2-0, or 3-0 is available on FanDuel. So at plus 200 for them to get another clean sheet victory, not to hit the over, I really love that value. Again, you can also parlay Liverpool to win in a clean sheet was coming in around plus 115, plus 120. All of those are playable. I think it should be another win for Liverpool, and hopefully they can rotate a little bit ahead of a big trip to Milan in the middle of the week for the Champions League. That's where we're going for Liverpool.
Great point at the end. We have Champions League football coming up midweek, and it's a different Champions League. So we have a different format. There's going to be more games. It's going to come thick. It's going to come fast. What that's going to do is some of these teams are going to be looking forward. If they're not playing somebody like, let's say, Arsenal playing in the North London Derby this weekend, you could see Liverpool come out and just try to get that win. What we've seen thus far is Iron Ball is not Klopp ball. We're not as open. We have a great attack, and I say we, but I'm talking about Liverpool. The attack is solid going forward, right? They have some players who know how to put the ball in the net, i.e., Salah, Jota, um, Diego, or Luis Diaz, excuse me, and you're not surprised when they're attacking. They're going to score, especially at home. They are a fortress. But thus far in the season, we're seeing a different defensive squad. We're not seeing them as exposed. We're not seeing as many of those long balls through the midfield, not as much bypassing, in my personal opinion. I feel like it's a more balanced Liverpool squad, which is not something I personally want to see as an Arsenal fan. I don't want the competition, but Arn Ball looks good. Not as many injuries on that Liverpool side. I expect them to have a comfortable win, but I don't expect them to win 5-6-0 like we used to see a Liverpool squad in. So great point on the Champions League. That's fantastic. I did want to mention that. So great segue, Andrew. Um, Next, I want to talk about where I'm at in Germany. I have a number of looks. I previously gave out a play on my X a week and a half ago, told you it was going to move. It has Leverkusen money line. We found it at minus 145 to Hoffenheim. A shambolic Hoffenheim thus far in the season, giving up goals to Holstein Kiel, getting worn out by a pretty good Frankfurt, but in a German league, they're just above average. So you really expect Leverkusen to come in here and absolutely dominate. No surprise the books have moved that. It was minus 145. I gave you it at minus 155. It's now 185, 215, 230, everywhere around that 200, like I mentioned. Even if you put in that over 1.5 goals to the Leverkusen, you're still looking at minus 175. So this is a reason you need to follow my X account and make sure that you're tapped in, because I'm only going to send you guys the things that catch my eye. I'm not willy nilly about what I send. So get in that line as well. If it drops live, try to hop in it. But remember, we are on that minus 155 Leverkusen. Let's hop straight into that. Wolfsburg, Frankfurt. I love Frankfurt both offensively and defensively. Wolfsburg have scored in 13 straight at home, including 25 of their last 30. They've conceded in 25 of their last 30. They've hit BTT or over 2.5 in 22 of the last 26 matches that hit BTTS. So they're hitting regularly, but also Frankfurt scored in 14 of 15, including 23 of the last 26 in the league. They've conceded in 16 of their last 17 league matches, and they've hit over 2.5 in the last 30 of 33 that hit BTTS. So when both teams to score comes in, the over 2.5 regularly comes in. In this matchup history, Wolfsburg regularly scores at home versus Frankfurt. They've hit BTTS in 10 of the 13 at home against them, and 15 of the last 19 that they played Frankfurt. They've also hit over 2.5. So this matchup, this fixture has tons and tons of goals. But instead of parlaying where these lines are, the BTTS is sitting at minus 172 and the over 2.5 around minus 132, 136, depending on where your book is. I'm going to drop half of a unit on the over 2.5, and I'm going to wait about 5, 7, 10 minutes, grab myself a better line, and hop into that BTTS. If the one team scores, you're just getting closer to over 2.5. So it's a great way to try to eat a little bit of juice and be a little bit safely. It can't be technically a best bet because it's kind of a bet split half live. Look for my Telegram. It's a good one. Good chance that I'm going to be sending something live early in this match because I love this fixture slate, but not the lines. What do you have for us in the Premier League?
I do want to just double back on that Leverkusen real quick. I
Yeah.
have I look, I had so much fun watching and betting Leverkusen. There was a while I thought Xabi Alonso was going to be Liverpool's manager, so I was really locked in with them. Um, I kind of like both teams to score in that one as a really solid parlay piece. That Leverkusen defense has not been good yet this season, and the fact that they're on the road ahead of our first Champions League game, I definitely think we can get both teams to score. I actually have that my both teams to score parlay for the weekend at plus 205 with Girona, Barcelona. Barcelona have only kept one clean sheet against Valladolid. I always mispronounce their name, Real Valladolid. And
Horrible.
then, yes, and then Wolves and Newcastle as well to close that out. Well, the last 6 times Wolves and Newcastle have played at Wolves, we've gotten both teams to score. So plus 205, I really like that because, like I said, just doubling back on that Leverkusen. Going back to the Premier League, shocking. The Liverpool fan is here to fade Everton. They are going to Aston Villa. And Villa and over 2.5 is plus 106. It's Villa Park. They're coming off some tough results. And here's the thing, it's Everton. They've been all over the place so far to the start of this season. Probably one of the worst soccer collapses I've ever seen in my time as a fan. When they lost to Bournemouth in the last game, they're missing their best defender still in Braithwaite. So I think Villa can get a bounce back. Do I think Everton can get on the score sheet? Yes, but I do think Villa get the win, get the vibes back up at Villa Park before they play Champions League for the first time. And I, again, can't remember when. So two teams, a couple mentions of Champions League coming up in the midweek, but I really do like Villa and over 2.5. I think that'll be right around plus 100.
Champions League ball is probably going to especially affect teams like Villa. These teams that are third and fourth place, who aren't necessarily built for these loaded fixture slates. So that's something to be mindful of. We want to attack Villa when they're in form, especially against teams who are out of form. Right now, you saw, was it last match? Everton was up 2-1 and then gave up 2 late goals to lose to Bournemouth at home.
Yeah, like
Shamba,
the
Deitch ball.
86th minute was the first goal or something like that. It was literally tripping over the finish line. They didn't even get to the finish line. They tripped at the finish line and lost.
Deitch ball's not working thus
No.
far. It didn't really work last season. It just kind of limped them over the edge. They should have made a change. Anyway, I digress on Everton. But jumping back into that Leverkusen, Hoffenheim, both teams to score, I definitely don't hate it because everybody or anybody who follows me knows I've been playing Hoffenheim, the both teams to score, and the over 2.5 for about a year plus now. It's hitting close to 85% throughout their. It was the second highest performing BTTS and over 2.5 last season. Thus far, it's come in, it's done well, but they are taking on a tougher squad, a Leverkusen team who needs to bounce back. I do see both teams to score. It's Leverkusen away from home, but I just think that they put the hurt on this Hoffenheim team based on what I saw against Holstein Kiel, especially in Frankfurt. They just looked tremendously horrible. Is Etikite or Ekatike? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Etikite, the striker for Frankfurt, tough time saying his name. Wow, he put the hurt on Holstein or Hoffenheim by himself. So I expect these attackers for Leverkusen to do the same thing. Next, I'm going to jump into Denmark. We have a match Saturday at 11 a.m., a high flying, high performing match. Two teams who nobody's surprised to see when they look at the Danish Super League, and these are two of the top teams. Midtjylland come in scoring. It's Midtjylland for anybody following. Midtjylland come in scoring in 22 straight and 2+ goals in 11 of their last 12 in the league. They've also scored in 19 or conceded in 19 of their last 25. It's regular conceding from a top squad in Denmark. They've hit over 2.5 in the last 22 of 23 matches that hit both teams to score. So they're hitting that over almost every time that they allow a goal, which is very important to know because they're playing a Copenhagen squad, Copenhagen away from home. They've scored in 33 of the last 35 matches. That's a regular production from a solid Copenhagen squad. They tend to show up. They've conceded in 17 of the last 24. Good production, but you really expect Midtjylland to be able to score at home. So that number looks solid. And then BTS and over 2.5 is hitting 2 straight matchups. So it's a no-brainer. I like both teams to score parlayed with that over 2.5. There's just too much there. Love the Super League, and they're a high-performing league, especially when these two teams play and recent form. So we're going to take that parlay at minus 129.
There we go. All right, I am jumping to. I know the game you will have on. It's the big game of the weekend for you. It's North London Derby. Uh, it
I was
doesn't need any
interested to
more.
hear what you had to
Yeah.
say about this one.
I here's the thing. Last year, the first time these two teams lined up, I nailed it with the draw. I think I got it like plus 240, and I think I also parlayed both teams to score on that and got it up to like plus 300. And that's kind of what I'm liking again this weekend with all the injuries, with the suspensions. Obviously, Declan Rice, he's out. Odegaard, huge injury for Arsenal. Very curious how they're going to play, possibly 17-year-old in that starting lineup in midfield. Maybe Zinchenko slide. I've heard the Arsenal fans at work talk about it all week. Who's playing where? But Spurs getting some positive news today. Dom Solanke is fit, is expected to start. Mickey Van de Ven back, good to go. I just don't trust Tottenham in a big game yet under Ange. I know he's had some really fun results. They've been a better side. I just don't think it all comes together this weekend. And I just kind of see a splitting the points at a plus 260. I really like the value there. But that's not my major play. I'm actually going to the goal scorer market, which I know can be tough. But there's two guys that I like for each side. I'll start with Arsenal, and I think it's Kai Havertz. With all the injuries that Arsenal have, he is exactly the type of guy that will step up in this spot. Which is funny because a year ago I was not saying that, and he definitely made me eat my words towards the back end of last year. Havertz, anytime goal scorer at plus 230 or score or assist at plus 140 is really interesting, especially because I think he's going to need to drop a little bit deeper and do a little bit more of the dirty work. So you have the opportunity for him to dictate play or him to get on the end of a nice Saka cross into the box. And then on the Tottenham side, I feel more confident about this because he has 8 goals and 2 assists in 20 matches against Arsenal, and it's Min Son. Again, you're getting him at plus 210 score to anytime goal score or assist at plus 125. He's been more of the goal scorer of late for Tottenham. He's kind of gotten away from that dictating play. Maybe things are different now that Solanke plays and you just take the score or assist at plus 125. But I do like him anytime goal scorer. Like I said, 8 goals and 20 appearances against Arsenal. This one's at home. They need a big statement moment. He's the guy. Also, if they get a penalty, he's the guy stepping up. So an over plus 200 number for an anytime goal scorer of a penalty taker in a rivalry game, I kind of have to put it on my card. But if you made me choose between the two teams, I might lean Spurs, draw no bet just for the home team advantage. And when was the last time we talked about this on my podcast? When was the last time Arsenal played a game without Odegaard and without Declan Rice? And it's a huge game. So I kind of have questions about Arsenal ahead of a huge Champions League run here. Could I see Arsenal doing the business? Absolutely. Especially after the disappointing result against Brighton, with the era that we're playing in the Manchester City era, the Pep Guardiola era of Premier League, a draw feels like a loss. So, you hate going into an international break gnawing on a result that got away from you. Um, but yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting game. Maybe not the best for the neutral. Maybe we don't get that over. Maybe we don't get that both teams to score, and we see kind of a grind out game as European football looms again.
Well, a thumbs down to Dave McBride and PS in the chat for the "Come on, you Spurs" crap coming in to an Arsenal fans chat and putting the slander on. No, honestly, this is a very tough game from all sides. You have a Tottenham team who has not performed against the top teams in the league at all. They just haven't. Not under Ange. It's been regular disappointment, but you're getting an Arsenal team that's a little out of form, missing some key players. You're probably going to see Havertz drop into that number 10. I don't know who's going to play in through the middle. It's either going to be a Jesus or a Trossard. It depends on what Arteta wants to do. He has his own mind. He's going to tinker. You're going to see Saka on the right. I don't see him dropping back centrally. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me for him to do that. We need him on the wing. You need speed. I think if Jesus is through the middle, it's a possibility Trossard goes to the left. If Trossard's through the middle, it's a possibility Martinelli comes in. Through the midfield, I imagine it's going to be a Jorginho Party deep pivot. Party sit a little deeper, distribute that ball to Jorginho, have Havertz just running all over the midfield, trying to create havoc. That to me is his best position anyway. Odegaard sits where Havertz should be. So it may be a little bit more natural for Havertz to come into this game and dictate, but I'm not necessarily that confident this weekend in how it is. I think that draw is a great look. Both teams should be able to score, given that it's at home. Uh, and with Arsenal away, they're not necessarily that porous, but against Tottenham, they're going to get chances. There's going to be opportunities. It just depends on who's clinical. The team that's clinical is going to decide this game. We're going to go straight to Sunday. Now that we've talked about the North London Derby, and my mouth is just raging right now thinking about having to play Tottenham this weekend. Excuse me, I got a little bit of a cold battling through that as well. But in Italian Serie B, nobody's surprised when I go to this first pick. Salernitana is taking on Pisa. Salernitana come in scoring in 8 of 9 matches, including 13 of the last 16 at home. They've scored 13 goals over their last 6 coming into it as well, including 5 in their 2 home matches to start the season. But they've conceded in 20 straight matches. So you're seeing Salernitana cannot keep a clean sheet. Scoring at home, regularly, now facing a team who's also scoring regularly, Pisa, 28 straight matches that they have found the net, and they've also conceded in 13 of their last 15, including 14 of their last 15 away from home in the league. This one sets up for that BTTS so nicely, and it's only minus 140. When I looked at the book, I expected this one to be about minus 175, maybe a little higher, because Salernitana is just performing. So I love this minus 140 number. If one team scores in this matchup, expect the other team to find the net. That's a great look in my official bet, but I also really like that. I can't even say this. Carraresi is taking on Sassuolo. Everybody knows Sassuolo, recently demoted from Serie A. Fantastic team on the both teams to score, and you'll see in a second. But Carraresi coming scoring in 26 of their last 30. Regular production. They've conceded in 5 of their last 6 since being promoted this season, and 9 of their last 13 overall. So they are conceding, but Sassuolo is who we really like. They're scoring in 28 of their last 36, regular production, all 6 matches thus far this season in Serie B. Now they're away from home, and they've conceded in 32 straight away matches. So you're seeing Sassuolo score, and whenever they go on the road, you can almost count on that both teams to score coming in. I got that at minus 128. That's a little bit of a bonus play for everybody. And that takes care of all of my plays, all of my top plays for this weekend, amongst others. Ugly lines. We've given you some for you to look at live. We've given you some to take pre-match. We've gone to England. We've gone to Germany. We've gone to Italy. We've gone to Denmark. We've gone to Mexico. And we've gone to Japan. What more could you want? And again, Andrew, could you remind everybody here listening, how can we find you? How can we follow you? And how can we learn more about you?
You can follow me on all the social platforms at Andrew Passaro. That's Passaro. You can follow my podcast, which drops usually every Thursday morning, sometimes Wednesday evening, kind of depends on schedule. But we're on YouTube at the Plus Money Pod. We're on Spotify, the Plus Money Pod. We're on Apple Podcasts, the Plus Money Pod. You can catch us in all those places. I'll be tweeting about it. The link's always in my bio. You can follow the account on Instagram, on Twitter at the Plus Money Pod. Quick, easy show. It's 15 minutes, or we try to be 15 minutes. We usually hit the Premier League pretty hard, and then I delve off into all of European action that I fall in love with every week. Um, Trying to hit some more parlays this season. So this week I'll be giving out on Twitter and on Instagram. I've got a EPL team total over 1.5 parlay at plus 196. Both teams to score a parlay at plus 205, which we talked about earlier. And I have a European team total over 1.5 parlay at plus 238. So be on the lookout for those. It's going to be a great weekend. We have so many great games. And we got college football. We got NFL. There's like no reason to leave the house this weekend. I'm really pumped.
You got UFC at the Sphere. I mean, what a loaded slate this weekend of sports. It's going to be tough to leave. And then, of course, Saturday morning, there's a tiny little derby over in North London. You're going to have to tune into. But again, that concludes today's episode of Shots on Target with your host, Brad Betts. Today, featuring my man, Andrew Passaro of the Plus Money Pod. Today is Friday, September 13th. We covered all the top matches of today and this weekend, giving you so many best bets for you to choose and for you to follow along live for potential better numbers as well. Andrew, thanks so much for joining me today. What a good episode. We've given 10, 12 plus bets. There's no reason that anybody should be without a bet for top matches this weekend. We're going to have you on again, and everybody needs to make sure they check out Andrew at the Plus Money Pod. But also for Tuesday, coming up in the Champions League, there is a plethora of matches coming on fast midweek. So this show is only going to continue to pick up with more and more content as the season progresses. Thanks again, and we're going to catch you guys on Monday with Shots on Target with your host, Brad Betts. Thanks again.